Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how leaders might choose being liked versus being respected. And I feel like I say this to a lot of leaders that I coach because it's something that we're conditioned to have as we grow up. Oh, you should be nice. You should be kind. And I think many people can be nice and kind, but it doesn't mean that you can't be respected as well. So I'd like to share with you that I also did an episode on this topic, episode 90. I'll put the link in the show notes for you. But the focus of this episode is going to be what happens if you do choose likability over respect. There are some signs that show when a leader is doing that. And I've had multiple conversations this week alone where that has been the case. And sometimes they don't even realize that they're choosing likability. They're choosing to keep harmony and do the right things from their perspective. So once they realize what's happening, then they can make a shift. But until they realize that, they don't know that they're doing anything that might cause them to be challenged by their boss or by HR or by other people. And so when you start to see what the signs are, you can pay attention to it in a different way. But if you don't know, then you can't do anything about that. So my intent with today's episode is to start to walk you through what kinds of things might show up in someone who is choosing likability before respect. So the first one is avoiding tough conversations. There are a lot of leaders who struggle with this. It isn't easy to have to tell someone constructive feedback at times. And it's necessary to do this because if they don't know they're doing something incorrectly or you need to get them back on track in some way, they can't do that unless you tell them. And you have to be able to give them examples and show why this is a problem. Here's what the impact is to other people or to the company. The second one is positioning themselves as one of the team. It can be hard when you are, especially a new manager, to feel like you are not part of the team. You're used to being part of a team. Coming up as an individual contributor, you've always been part of a team, and now you're separating yourself. You're becoming this manager. And so I'm not really sure how that story gets started for people, but it's not true. You're the same person, but you do have to look at things differently when you're a manager of people. You're in different conversations, and you are expected to do different things. And so it's okay to have the team see you as the manager and separate yourself, but that is a shift in your mindset that you do have to make because you just can't be part of the team like you used to be, and that is a shift. The next one is difficulty in decision making. You might have to make some really hard choices, and it's not easy. And you have to weigh out your options, trust your intuition, look at your experience and see if you've done something like that before. But you have to make those hard decisions. And the more you wait, the more challenging it is for your team to know what to do. So sometimes I've seen people put it off and hoping that it will go away maybe, or that they don't have to deal with it. But especially in the situation of, let's say, an employee that you need to put on a performance improvement plan, it can be really challenging to make that decision. And when is the right time? And how do you make that decision objectively? And so going through the motions of understanding what's expected in the role, where they are with their competencies, use some things that help you make that decision, right? Because I know it's not easy and some people have never done it before and it can be hard to do, especially the first time. So once you understand what's needed and what you have to do, it's a little easier the second time if you have to go through that. But recognize and be kind to yourself that it's not an easy decision to make, to say to someone that they are going to have to prove they deserve this job. And it's hard for that person to go through that. And you like them as a person, that's fine. They're a great person, but they just may not be a good fit for this role, and it's okay to tell them that. Promoting unprepared employees. I had definitely seen this in my career. I had a couple of people who worked for me who got promoted along the way for various reasons. And, maybe they showed that they could do it or they had the potential to do it. But once they got to that level, it was too much. At the end of the day, if they can't do the role at the level that they are, then you have to make a tough call and you have to have that conversation with them. The next one is withholding constructive criticism. For anyone who struggles with being liked or wants approval from someone else, this is a tough one. because it's hard to tell someone that they're not doing well. You want your team to do well. You want everyone to do well. But when they're not doing well, you have to be honest with them and transparent about what's happening and what they're not doing and what you want them to do instead. Because they're going to continue to do what they're doing unless you tell them. And so it's not fair to them. It's not helping them grow. It's not helping them develop. And it's definitely not helping you be able to do the job that you're meant to do. When you tell them, be honest, be transparent, and tell them why it's happening. Praising work that is not great. So you might have some work that someone turns in, for example, and they think it's amazing. And when you look at it, you're like, it's not really what I was hoping for. It's not what we talked about. But until you explain what that means, they don't know that. So helping them understand what's not great about it, what you're looking for instead. But what I've seen a lot of people do is instead of doing that, they'll actually take that work and do it for them instead. So that is also not helping them, right? And it's giving you more work to do that you don't have time to do already. Try to get the person either to build those capabilities faster or to maybe buddy up with someone else in the organization who is doing something similar that they could learn from. But you cannot be the one to take on that work. It's just never going to work, and then it starts to impact how you're seen. Lack of boundaries. So you might be the person who knows a lot of information in the organization, and it's really easy to just give people the answers. And what that does is they're taken care of for the moment, but it's very short term. And then they're going to have another question, or maybe they have the same question again. It might be hard for them because they haven't understood why they got the answer or why that decision was made. You have to empower them to be able to do these things on their own without you. Now, you also have to tell them that this is coming. So I had a leader who was going through this transition himself and wanted to be in a place where he could just coach his team and stop giving the answers. And so we talked about how he could do that. Inconsistent leadership. So this is one where maybe you do something with one employee and you hold them accountable. You ask them to do everything and they do it. The other employee doesn't show up for work, doesn't do their work well, has low quality, but you don't do anything. So it sends a bad message to the employee who's really trying to do the right thing and shows up for work and puts high quality in and puts extra time in, and the other one doesn't do anything, but yet is treated the same way. So it starts to send mixed messages to people, and you have to be aware that everyone's watching. Are you being genuine? Are you being authentic? Are you treating this other person, differently than me, and why? Everyone has their own path, and you cannot want it for them more than they want it for themselves, and you also can't do things for them. They have to learn how to do it for themselves and build those capabilities. And so for people who are struggling with, I want to get promoted, take a look at some of these on this list that I just went through and see if you see yourself in any of them. Maybe one of them you're doing without realizing it, and you have no idea that that's a problem. So let's move into the visibility action plan now. Take a look at this list and see if any of these resonate for you. Can you see yourself doing any of these without realizing it? But when you start doing it to the detriment of the other person and to the detriment of you, I can deliver feedback to someone and it doesn't change how I feel about them as a person. It's more about the behaviors that they're doing and what I would like them to do instead, and helping them understand the impacts. So pick one of these off this list if it resonates for you and decide what you're going to do differently. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.